Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a Flesh and Blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 100. What are you?
We're starting this episode off with some ASMR. I thought that's what you said. Do you remember like 20 or so episodes ago when I gave you homework about ASMR? Because I haven't forgotten. Don't think that because I haven't mentioned it, I haven't forgotten. So I just figured we were going to... Hold on. In case people were wondering what it sounds like for me to sip coffee.
You know what? I got you. Here.
Oh, yeah. Slower. Percolate it.
Is that what it is? Is that ASMR?
Basically.
Okay, cool.
You're kind of getting the gist.
I got it right. That's fantastic. So, well, again, back to the point of all of this. Welcome to episode 100 in a row of Flesh and Pod. I am Logan. I am your eternal host. And with me, as always, for the last 44 weeks is what's his name today? Oh, LeBron himself.
Yeah. Did you see the full title?
I did not. I missed it. Must have.
For those of you who don't know, I always change my name when we do these recordings because Jordan needed to hear this one. I'm glad you brought it up. The full name is LeBron, aka Better Than Jordan.
Wow. All right. Well, LeBron, aka that's just your opinion, man. Derek Oswald, Charmer. I know you played Flesh and Blood.
Wait.
Week.
Before we do this, real quick, it's Derek Oswald.
That's
not Oswald. No, it came out as Oswald, and I need to say this because I know later we're going to cover it, but there are some Flesh and Blood players that are much better than me. Who have a last name of Oswald, and every time they do well, I get a message from Dale and Mac saying hey man, I saw you. Oh no, that wasn't you. Never mind.
Oh, sorry. God fucking damn it. Okay, well.
Speaking of doing better than me, yes, I played more Flesh and Blood. I know, it's a shocker. I actually play this game. I am actually very sad. I'm still coping. I played in another ProQuest. I was supposed to play in 2. My goal was to play in both of the draft events because limited events just in general are my favorite way to play just about any game. And Flesh and Blood is no different. Saturday morning, however, I woke up and my family just had no hot water. So I spent the day repairing that. Now, the good news is did not have to replace the entire unit. I figured out that it was a bad thermostat on the hot water heater itself. And then I was kind of panicking because to replace the exact part would have been $70 and it would have taken a week to get here if I ordered it online. So I did some digging on the specs and it was just 120 volt O-ring, single element thermometer, essentially thermostat, right? It just reads the temperature from the side of the tank. So I found a comparable part at my local hardware store for $11. And granted, it took some time, so I didn't get to go to the ProQuest on Saturday, but I did repair it. So that was the start to what was, for the most part, a good weekend. I'm actually kind of settling in on the fact that I had a pretty good weekend overall, even though I'm still upset because I think, excellence is only there when you get the big W. So Sunday got to play in a ProQuest. I made the top 8 and then I scrubbed out. I was not happy with my final draft, my top 8 draft. I technically drafted my chair. I did what I'm supposed to, but it still didn't feel good. I think that Dash can be very good in Bright Light's limited play. However, I think what she really needs to make her more competitive against skilled players, because I think that's the real gap, The problem is my chair ended up being dashed by a long shot. I was one of only 2 in the pod, and it was very apparent. All the signals were there. So I did what I was supposed to do. But against skilled players, it's much harder to make her work because her big flashy plays are the boom grenades from the top, right? And I had 4 red boom grenades. The problem is I triggered 0 of them because the only real like attack reaction, and it's not even an attack reaction, it's actually an instant, but the only real like reactive plays are the Evo arms that you can play at an instant to give an attack +1. And so good players, competent players, when they're playing against a dash, will just cover your attack, right? Like you never get to sneak it through except for like the one time with arms if you happen to draw that and have the boom grenade on top, right? Like you need to assemble the pieces, and all that's just for one boom grenade, let alone trying to get multiples off. And the items outside of boom grenade also feel a little lackluster unless you're getting like quality ones. Like the ward ones can be cool as a defensive kind of trick. But again, you kind of like need things to align. And so ultimately, I did what I was supposed to do. I still scrubbed out in the top 8, so I don't feel good about that. Got a max nitro cold foil out of it. But I say that overall my weekend was good because I saved a ton of money on water heater repairs. But I also did, relatively well. I didn't like demolish my limited elo. I'm still top 200 in the US because I didn't like scrub it up that much. But I also opened a Teklo Heart and a Foil Fabricate. Nice. And a couple of other Majestics as well. Like I kept like winning in every way but the way I wanted to win. So like when I step back, I'm like, yeah, I actually had a pretty good weekend. Even whenever I go to events, Logan always makes fun of me for what he says is playing my weeb games. It's Honkai Star Rail. I did some pulls because I was trying to get a new character. It's just a 4-star. They're supposed to be easy to get. And then the 5 stars are like really rare. So I did a pull and I posted it on Twitter because it's like, oh, I'm trying to get Gwyneth. And then the game just gave me everything else. I got Topaz, who's like the newest character, and Japard and a bunch of other stuff all in one pull. It's basically like winning the lotto in that game. So yeah, I was winning in every way but the way I wanted to all weekend long. And sometimes that's the breaks. But we do have one more weekend left. It's Classic Constructed for both events this upcoming weekend. Again, I'm going to try to make both, but this one's going to be harder because we already have some family stuff planned, but I will play in at least one. Going to pilot Bravo this time instead of Uzuri, just because I'm more comfortable with it. And then based on what I saw at the other Constructor ones, I think I'll have better matchups. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was overall it was a good time. Great games. Just really, really wanted to, get that W.
Well, now that you got that out of your system.
Yeah, I know.
I also played Flesh and Blood, and I also only played one of the 2 pro quests I intended to play. And the reason for mine was as simple as so the first one, it was draft and I 1-5'd. I tried to do everything that wasn't Teklovasa, and then that was incorrect. I should have just played Teklo, and then drafted my seat in the top 8. And I tried something else, and I got max punished for it. And that is a pun.
That is a pun.
It was max both times.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about that. On the day, I did far and away the best on max. Like I started 3-0 on max, and it wasn't even what I would have described as good max. It turns out that just being consistent is sometimes like good enough in limited formats, and I'd kind of forgot about that. So my first draft, instead of like quote unquote drafting a max deck, it was just filled with every like 1-for-5 boost go again I could jam in, and every turn was like present 15, present 14, present 15, right. And that was good enough.
That's good enough. So yes, it did not go great. And then the next day was Classic Construct, and I was like, okay, I'm quote unquote running this event. Like it's the store that I normally run armories for. But we have a judge, and my thought process was, okay, judge is competent, he knows how to run gem, no big deal. So, we had, I think, 16 players on the nose for the draft event on Saturday. And so I'm like, we'll probably have between 10 and 16. We had fucking 30. At which point I'm like, I am not putting that all on one person. So I will be back here just doing the TO gig and not playing, because that is just horrible to like try to run as one person, to do deck checks, judge calls, results, prizing, all of it as one person with a 30 ball, 5 rounds, top 8. That's an obscene amount of work for one person to try to do. So I just said, nope, not doing that. I will go ahead and sit my happy ass back here and observe some gameplay. I observed a lot of fucked up things. One of them, I didn't get to observe this one. This was reported to me by the person it happened to. He's like, well, that Bravo didn't go as planned. And I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, they dominated a Starstruck for 20. And I'm like, what? What?
Would they do, like, play Tower?
They did. They played Tower. They played Tower, Starstruck, pummel the Starstruck. So I was like, And that same round, I saw a Max play a turn 6 Mechanoid and then swing for 38 in one turn. And then in the finals was Lexi, because why wouldn't it be? The Lexi did win against Fatigue Dory.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fatigue Dory was in firm control. And the Lexi player was just like, where the fuck are my Rain Razors? And the Dory player just kept picking up the graveyard and looking and being like, there still are none. And finally hits a turn where he does a few things and arsenals are Rain Razors. The hand he draws behind it, with Tunic counter up, was Rain Razors, 3 of a kind, Infecting Shot. Right.
Okay.
So he just went Rain Razors, peel the Tunic counter, 3 of a kind. And he hit arrows. And so he presented 31 damage back to the Fatigue Bravo or Fatigue Dory. And they were just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Like you block as much as he can? I don't know.
Arclight Sentinel? Wait, no, that's not right.
Be great if you could, but
right.
Yeah, I was just like, that's brutal, but sure. I guess. And so that's how that game turned on. It's just spun on a dime, and then the Lexi came back and won from there. So that was just crazy to watch. I did obtain a judge pack. Hooray. It's still sealed. I'm going to open it a little bit while we're recording and be very disappointed in whatever it is, because it's almost certainly not Art of War. And that's really what I want.
Well, I mean, so my local judge, I know that I already told you, but for the listeners, opened an Art of War for the ProQuest that I attended on Sunday. Seeing it in person, it is absolutely stunning. I know all of the judge ones are stunning, but the clouds, like normally I like to joke and I call it Fart of War because it just looks like a giant yellow stinky cloud, I mean, it's still beautiful art, but it just, like, let's be honest, it looks like a Fart of War. This completely changes my view on it, because the way they do the cold foiling for the Judge Cold Foil Art of War makes it look like one of those like angelic sunshine golden hour glimmers. Like, it just really elevated it for me. So I really hope that you get one, but I am going to just go on record. I'm going to go on wax and say you're going to open a Vincent. That's my called shot.
I would also accept that. I would take a Vincent. The first one I opened, because the first ProQuest I did, I also just like grabbed one off the judge, and it was a smashing good time. Right. So I've already been smashed once. I'm probably just going to get smashed again.
I need those for my Bravo sideboard, but just kidding. I still need pummels.
Yeah, those are quite a bit more expensive. Just gonna throw that out there.
I'm so happy that I get to like actually attend the place where they're giving out the sigils, as somebody who desperately would not want to be trying to buy those on the secondhand market. If
you can pick up extras, holler at your boy, because I need a set of those. And the secondary market is going to kill me.
Yeah.
But you probably will have exactly 3.
That is currently what my assuming it works the way I think it works, which is because it's weird, right? The side events where you can get the sigil, they're either like 50 euros or 70 or 75 euros.
Yep.
But if you buy the packages, the bronze
Bronze
I had to warm up to a bronze ticket. The bronze tickets and the silver event tickets obviously don't equal 50. They're like 20 and 35.
Sure,
so I assume that you can do a bronze and a silver to register for the $50 ones. I've not done anything with the tournament center folks, so I have sent them an email and I'm awaiting a response just to confirm ahead of time. But if that is the case, I have exactly enough event things to cover 3 between me and my wife, because I'm going to make her like to also save on time, because like we want to go explore the city. So there's one event where we'll both sign up and then likely just drop that morning and then go wander around the city. But yeah, right now I have enough to get 3.
Right.
If they do that.
Well, let's hope. Like, because I think that you would love to have them, as would I. But I am not flying to Barcelona. I am basically stuck in the U.S. until December 4th.
You know, if you want to change your mind and come on out, just know that you won't be Barcelona. You'll have some company.
That might be the worst one you've done.
Well, it's for episode 100. You have to.
Yeah. You have to just light it up, right? You can't wait around. You have to just pull out the bestie, whatever you got, whatever's loaded up in there. I don't want to know. That's the fucked up part. We're going to kind of gloss through some things. We have 11 listener questions to go through.
Which is shocking, because I didn't even know we had 11 listeners.
That's true. I don't actually tell you how many people listen to this show. It's greater than 11. Let me put it that way.
Oh, I just assumed that was because all of the YouTube views are me putting it on loop, because I like the sound of your voice and I miss you when we're not recording.
Okay. One, that's both very flattering and fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to do with that one, but if that's all of our YouTube views, then both teams played hard, I guess. But let's talk a little bit about heavy hitters, because this looks fun as fuck already.
Already. 3 cards, and I'm already jacked for this set.
3 cards in. So talking heavy hitters, we get Brute, Guardian, Warrior confirmed as classes.
Hey!
We did it.
I feel almost like I know what I'm talking about every now and then. So the other thing that I thought would happen, and this is where I was right, is that we would get hybrid cards of those classes. Mm-hmm.
So we have hybrid cards of Brute, Warrior, and Guardian, and I fucking love it. So let's kind of get down and dirty for a minute. And there's no down and dirty. That's a different set. But we're going to go through the 3 cards that have been spoiled and kind of talk about what things are here. The first one, and the names are also perfect. Just going to throw that out there. They're perfect. The first one is Runner. It is.
Now, if you're not familiar, this is a poker term.
It's a poker term.
We're a bunch of card game nerds, so just buckle in, because there's more coming.
If you hit Runner, that means that you're behind and you whip the 2 cards you need to pull ahead on the hand. That's Runner. That's the easiest way to put it.
Yep.
It's a Brute Warrior dual class card. It has the CNC stats, so 2/6/3, 2 cost. It's red pitch, 6 attack, 3 block. Already great. Didn't take long. And then if it has Go Again, it creates an agility token. An agility token is the same as a Quicken token, except it works on all attacks, which would count allies, which makes me think that allies are in this set.
And the other difference is a Quicken token stays until you attack. This will destroy at the start of your turn like a Seismic Surge does.
It pops
so
like a surge.
That's the other difference. But yes.
So
the allies thing, I think, could be kind of funny if it's like you get a buddy in the arena,
Yeah, or there's there's a druid type class or druid type, play pattern to like the Brute Oh God, if not Earth Brute, please don't. Unless you give me Draconic Warrior. If you give me Dragon Warrior,
I don't think we're gonna get it this time, just because already the seeing of the split classes to me sounds like there likely won't be talents again. I think this is going to be very similar to Outsiders, much like we were talking about last week, right? I think that we might see 6 total heroes. We might revisit some older young ones the same way we got Benji back. I know that I was talking about Valda last week, so I could totally see that. Or we could see the return of Kasai based on some of the other cards that we'll talk about here in a moment, because I think it fits the aesthetic of this set very well. But I also just wanted to say, just with Runner, I appreciate a good warrior attack that's not necessarily weapon based, because this does a lot for the existing warriors as well. This gives you some additional poppers, for example. If you're trying to bring those in, you don't have to go as heavy into the generics. This also opens up some stuff for Bolton, if I'm being honest, if you don't want to go as light heavy, because even his weapons traditionally are still kind of built around the theme of, doing things with light. And so that has, historically kind of limited the way things interact. So if we get a good generic warrior weapon, like we could see like a hybrid Bolton, like as opposed Bolton? To just, as opposed to just like a combo Bolton the way we have historically. I like that this is such a simple card, but it very elegantly opens up a lot for the class.
No, 100%. This one, I love it. I think, and also the name. Like, the name has got me too. Yeah. Like, let's be fair. The next one is Double Down. So here we go again. That
is a blackjack reference. I'm a big blackjack nerd. I also love everything. I love everything about. I'm going to do this one. I'm stealing this slogan. I love this card. All right. It's not just that I'm a blackjack addict.
He is horny for Double Down.
This is also a Guardian.
One question. Are you also horny for the KFC Double Down?
I used to be. Okay. I definitely ate them when they were available. Yes, but that was I was younger and full of hope back then.
No, you weren't.
Believe it or not, I had more hope. Maybe the Double Down soaked all my hope up.
That might have been what caused the hope loss.
Between the Double Down and the Famous Bowl, I think that I shat my way.
The failure pile of sadness.
Anyway, Double Down. Blackjack reference. I adore it. It's a Guardian warrior action. So you see Guardian and you know that it's already got me horny. Red pitch costs 2, blocks for 3. But this is where it immediately gets interesting. I always say that spoiler season is my favorite time for card games, because you see like a card and then you get to speculate about stuff coming and you get to infer things. And even if those things never come to fruition, the fact that it gets your brain thinking about all the different ways the game has to go as far as like new design space, I just love that. So we're going for a ride, because this references stuff that we have no idea what it's going to do. And that's my favorite. So text, you may destroy a gold you control rather than pay Double Down's pitch cost. All right. We know what gold is, but clearly it's going to be something in the set. So excited. The next attack that wagers, and that's bolded as a very relevant keyword here. This turn gets +3 attack and overpower. Now, we don't know what wagers does, but if you have an attack that does wager, it gets +3 attack and overpower. Also, if a hero would create 1 or more tokens from a wager, this turn, instead they create that many +1 of each of those tokens, and then finally go again, because of course you're going to play this theoretically before a wager attack and do all the things. Now, the wager part is interesting, because this is heavy hitters. It's all about, the idea of like these like heavyweight arena fights, people slugging it out. But you're also betting on the arena fights. So thematically, I love it. What I suspect this will be, now again, this is entirely speculation. I don't have any inside info, but what I imagine when I see the way this is worded is that you're going to have these high risk, high reward attacks where it's going to attack, and it might have the wager keyword, and then it'll say like, if it hits, you do X, and if it doesn't hit, your opponent gets something, right? I think of, what is it, Swing Big?
Swing Big.
Yeah.
If you block
right
it out,
now,
you get a Quicken
if
token.
you block it out, your opponent gets the Quicken token. I think it'll be likely designed like that, but on a grander scale. And I just love, now again, I don't think it'll be anything super crazy, but I love the way this is worded, because in my head, you could have, some attacks that say like, maybe you create a seismic surge and a gold. And then if you double down, you get 2 seismic surges and 2 golds, right? Or 2 silver or 2 copper. The fact that it's every token that you would create, you get 1 more of, means that I think that there's the potential to chain together some stuff. It also might be like one attack says create something, but there might be other non-attacks. Like imagine a turn where it's like you do double down, and then you also do a thing that says like your next attack gets +3 and then wager, and it's like if you win you get a gold, if not your opponent gets a gold, sort of thing. And then your attack also does the thing. Like there's a lot of ways this could go, and I like it. If my guess is correct, I like it because it will be the first time where you're going to have an offensive set where you're going to have all these kind of cool things where you're meant to hit your opponent, but you're also rewarding players for being defensive at the same time.
Right.
Like this idea of incentivizing both sides of play will play up the strengths of Flesh and Blood, because I think that good players know how to make those good micro decisions. So if that is the case, again, I have no idea, but if that is the case, I'm going to fall in love with this set. I'm very excited.
So this card, one, I feel targeted because stapling a mechanic that says wager onto cards that are warrior cards is already just like triggering, right? Like you realize how much I love to gamble. And then also that my favorite hero to play in this game is Kasai by a million miles. And you're going to give me cards that I can play in Kasai that have like betting attached to them? Mm-hmm. And Kasai's a hero already that loves that shit. Okay, I'll do that. That sounds great. This is hitting my sweet spot in a lot of ways, because one, the wager thing, I'm excited as all hell for wager to be a thing. The other part of this is that we're going to get cards that create tokens that are like, I'm going to assume the monetary style of tokens, gold, silver, coppers, which leads me to think that we are going to get adult Kasai, which then I have a main. I can just forsake everything else and hang out with my girl. So I would become a monogamous Flesh and Blood player. I would just have the one hero until she dies, till death do us part. And then I would honor her spirit in the living legends. That's how we would work this. But I'm really hoping that's the case. I don't know for sure. I mean, they could easily just make a different hero that has that, like, that type of thing attached to it. Like, this is not a foregone conclusion by any stretch.
Or like I said, it could just be that she is one of the young heroes, a la Benji as well. So like you might have Kasai and then like a new hero with a similar playstyle. Yeah. You might get Uzuri'd, right? Like I fell in love with Arachne, and then they're like, oh, by the way, here's the actual love of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one.
Wait, one last thing before we move on. Yeah, because I still have to mention this about wager. In thinking about how things can further open design space going forward, I don't expect that to ever show up in this set. And honestly, I don't know when they would introduce it, if they're trying to slowly get away from the supplemental sets, if they want everything to be kind of draftable going forward. But I love the idea of a merchant hero, right? Because we already have those that also like specializes in wagers. Like give me Stonks McGee, the stockbroker, who's just wagering his money all day long on different things.
Money fake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Fucking Andy. But the last one that we have to talk about that we know a card for is Talk a Big Game. Also just right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
This is perfect. It's a blue pitch, 0 cost, Brute Guardian action. 3 blocks. So it's already a blue that blocks for 3. It's already a Guardian card.
And a brute card. They've been looking for blue black threes.
But they want blue 6s more than they want that.
Yeah, I mean, they do. You're not wrong.
I've asked Guardian players far and wide. I said, okay, it's a blue 6 that doesn't block, that costs 700 resources to play. How many on your deck? 3x. Okay, that's all I need to know. Moving on. This one says, choose a number. The next time you deal that much or more damage to a hero this turn, physical damage, combat damage.
Yeah.
To a hero this turn, create that many might tokens. So we don't know what a might token is, but we can infer that they make things stronger.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways that I could see this going. One, so like might tokens could be like your next attack gets +1/+0. Or it's also like maybe agility is kind of like a new version of Quicken, but I don't think wanted to tie Quicken to like these big things.
Right.
So like maybe might is also similar to Seismic Surge, but they wanted to leave that Guardian specific, and with the crossovers, it could be something like that. Who knows? But the other thing that jumps out to me about this is that this feels like something that could be the wager mechanic, but also I don't see the word wager anywhere here. And if this is truly different from wager, then you, my friend, are going to be looking at being able to wager and then also wager with non-wager cards, because this is still a form of betting.
It's still gambling. It's just, they understand that booster packs are also gambling, so they're just going ahead and going both directions with it. It's fine.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention it is because in my head I was like, all right, if this is, maybe this is just wager, but they've like spelled it out. The dream would be like you talk a big game and then you double down, and then if you like wager 6 and you deal 6, now whatever might are, you get 12 of them, right? Like that just seems hilarious to me. But
yeah, pushing attacks to the fucking moon, I guess. But that makes sense, right? That's flavorful. That works for a set like this, and we'll see. Maybe it's just the inverse of frailty tokens, that arsenal and weapon attacks get +1. That's possible
also,
too.
Shout out to the art on Talk a Big Game, because it very much reminds me of like it's got that Conan feel, but also still somehow like a human version of Jabba the Hutt at the same time.
Yeah, it's me in a hot tub with a shaved head. You can just say it, or like
and a
with
skull.
Short hair. I would 100% drink beer out of a skull. Like you.
Yeah.
No problem.
Also, the extended art is great because you can see the hyena.
The hyena's great.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the hyena. Also, we did get one more piece of art, and it's a playmat that looks fucking awesome. It's a giant dude with a giant beard and giant flowing mustache, throwing down some coin on what looks like a wager. And to the shock of absolutely no one, Ezor did the fucking art again. Now it's not listed on the mat. However, our friend Carolina came into Twitter to talk about how she wants to bimbofy this character, because that's what she does. And Ezor came in behind it and said, then my work is done here. And I'm like, yeah, it looked like your work. Like, not gonna lie, I already thought that this was you, but thanks for the confirmation. Because it looks a little like Genus What You Need. And
it does, but also not. Like, it reminds me of if Genus had a brother that was like, honestly, you know what he reminds me of visually? He reminds me of like the dwarves that help Geralt out. Like, this could very well be an interpretation of like Yarpen or somebody,
I mean, yes, it could. You are
the scar. I also really enjoy that the scar is like not just traditional scar shaped. It's tic-tac-toe shaped. I don't know if you noticed that. So it's almost like he was like, hey, I'll wager on anything. I'll literally play tic-tac-toe on my face.
Skin.
What are you gonna do, bro? All right, like,
what you got for me, huh? So beautiful.
Oh.
I love it. That playmat is absolute gas. I guess we should probably talk about competitive shit for a minute. Battle Hardened St. Louis happened. There was a Battle Hardened and a PTI event. they're not only both won by Lexi, they're won by the same fucking person playing Lexi. So Lucas Oswald.
Yes, Dalen. Lucas Oswald. He has confused me with Lucas on more than one occasion.
He's like half your age.
Listen, I'm okay with being confused for Lucas. Dude's a winner.
Yes,
and
he
I
is.
scrub out in top 8s. So
yeah, he took home both. The win on Lexi in the Battle Hard was over Austin Reddington, which Charmer knows from which game? From Ruterra, right? And
yeah.
And then he's from he's from Iowa, so I know him from here. So he's won one on Dromai before, or PTI event. No, it was PTI event on Dromai before. So good Dromai stand, good pilot. That's a hard one for Lucas to take down. So congrats there. The top 5 or the top 8, I should say just top 5, but the top 8 was 5 Lexis. And then 1 Dromai, 1 Icelander, 1 Uzuri. Most people cannot wait for Lexi to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Because people are like, okay, well, now that she's gone, and I know that she's gone, we know that she's the best deck. We're just going to play it until it's gone.
Right.
Don't blame you. I mean, take the edge. I've been trying to find decks that are good into Lexi that have at least some amount of game into everything else. And it's rough. It's really rough. So unless you think that Lexi's going to be like 40% ish of, or, even 30%, I guess, of the field you're trying to win through, man, I wouldn't take any of the decks that hard target Lexi. Like, it's so hard. It's so difficult right now. But that's just my 2 cents. I mean, a good player in most cases is still going to outplay somebody that isn't playing optimally. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you have confidence in a deck choice, like, just take it. If you don't have confidence in a deck choice, it might just be go play Lexi. It's a little reductive to say that Lexi's easy to play, because I've seen base level Lexi and I've seen next level Lexi. But the difference here is that base level Lexi is totally fine. Like, base level Lexi is going to get free wins and is going to win games.
It's not quite the same power level. Excuse me, my brain is going faster than my mouth, but it reminds me of when Starvo had already LL'd and they had a bunch of people that jumped on, and it was kind of the same thing, right? Like, a good Starvo player could take it the extra mile, but the deck's basement was of a high enough power level that you would still do fine.
Yep. And the other thing about like this versus Starvo in a lot of instances is Starvo had legitimately one really bad matchup, like, honest to God, bad matchup. And it took a perfectly played Prism. And that deck to play perfectly requires so much thought and precision in the mechanics of playing the deck that finding people that could pilot Prism at that level was rare.
Yeah. Well, and so the other thing, not to take anything away from, like I said, the really good Starvo players, but if you're somebody who's just picking up the deck, the difference is Lexi still requires like at least knowledge of decent sequencing, whether it's like when to load your arrows or always remembering. I know it sounds stupid, right? But always remembering to play your Rain Razors before your 3 of a kind, that sort of thing. Whereas with Starvo, like, sometimes your hands just played themselves. You're like, okay, I got the 3, right? So like I show them, I do the big attack, I swing with hammer, right? And if that was even just a third of your turns, not having to think for a third of your game is such a mental vacation. Oh, I miss it.
The only time that wasn't true was in Starvo Mirrors,
right?
Which were my favorite, honest to God, my favorite Flesh and Blood thing to do was play Starvo Mirrors. I fucking loved it, and I miss it. I really do. But moving on to Battle Hard in Kuala Lumpur, it was Blitz, so kind of, I mean, it's still relevant, but it was won by Azalea in Blitz, which made me feel like that whoever was the pilot of that was definitely targeting how fast the format has gotten. And it was probably just chain some Red in the Ledgers to make Chain cry.
Red in the Ledger is a hell of a card.
really is. And if you are playing the Dread or the Memorial Ground package with Great Bow or whatever, fuck them. Like, they're not going to be able to do much. They're just going to lose.
Iyslander is gone from Blitz.
Yep.
So
Oldhim and Iyslander are gone.
Well, you're right, but the main reason that I mentioned that is because the real reason that I think that Azalea is shied away from, at least currently, is the presence of Warmongers, right? So like when you think about Classic Constructed, you're always like, all right, well, what do I do into the Iyslander matchup specifically? Like Warmongers is kind of around, but you worry about it the most in that. But then when you go to Blitz, it's like, okay, well, if I don't have to worry about Iyslander, unless there's some ninjas, or unless Chain runs it as just like a blue block 3 and they want to do like a thing and then end on it, there's not as much worry there. So I think Azalea is actually a pretty decent potential play anyway for Blitz right now.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I have 2 Warmongers sitting in my Kasai deck because nope. I'm sick of losing to Chain, and it does a number on Chain.
Yep.
And I'm losing to Azalea also is painful. So that was one of those where my decision point was, okay, I'm just going to throw these in here. They're going to replace shunts in certain matchups, and that's it. Like, got it. Oasis Respite, don't need it. Iyslander's gone. I'm probably losing to Kano anyway. I have the ability to go up to AB3. If that's not good enough, then that's not good enough. And I usually get turn 2 or turn 1 by him anyway, so whatever. That's just, my mindset on playing against Kano. They either have it or they don't, especially in Blitz.
Hey, did you hear about the other like really interesting competitive Flesh and Blood news?
No.
Oh, well, the Realm Invitational is coming December 1st through the 3rd.
That is true.
You just every week you're like, I'm gonna say it until it's not true, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give Logan a week off for the 100th. I will do it. I will be the shill. Just kidding.
I am the only person. I am the only person that has appeared in all 100 episodes. So
that is
maybe
not
I do
true.
deserve a week off.
There was one.
What?
Where you had substitutes. Wasn't it like episode 50? Something like that?
The episode was me, Tommy, and Elaine.
No. I'm pretty sure it was Jordan, right?
Nope, sure wasn't.
Are you sure? Because I asked Stark and he said it was Jordan.
Oh, fuck that kid. That fucking kid. God damn it. That little son of a bitch.
Oh, the long con. It's beautiful. So anyway, December 1st through the 3rd in Columbus, we do have the Realm 20K Invitational weekend, but it's not just the Invitational. There will be side events galore for Flesh and Blood. There's also going to be events for other games as well. So if you want to scratch the itch for like Alpha Clash or some other games, then you should check the website because it's going to be a good time. There's also a cosplay contest. I have got to see in person the progress being made on a Corsham that they're building, which is actually pretty cool, as well as some other things. It's a Realm event. They're going to kind of, just throw fun at you. Like some places they'll throw prizes at you. The Realm just throws fun at you. And yeah, sometimes the fun is prizes, but it's also the power of friendship, right? It's the journey, not the destination. The real treasure is the friends we made along the way. Whatever trite thing you want to put there, I don't know, put it against like a sunset and post it on Instagram. The point is you're going to have a good time.
Okay. Also in the same building at the same time as GalaxyCon, apparently, because reasons.
So I didn't realize it was the exact same building. I knew that it was very close.
At the convention center. Yeah,
it's at the same building. All right, so woo! You could go see like Ric Flair in the same building. Come on,
the Nature Boy in the flesh and Mike Tyson, if that's your jam. Most of Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you've ever wanted to do that, I don't know. Seems good.
I did, yeah. I know you said most. LeVar is reason enough, right?
I would say yes. LeVar, and I guess for me, Denise Crosby, but that's just a completely different thing. But
I don't remember from the list. Is Brent gonna be there?
Yep, Brent Spiner's there. Yep.
Yeah, that's another good reason. I love
Get you some data.
I was gonna say him from Independence Day because people just don't give that enough respect, but he did
Enough
such
run.
an amazing. Yeah.
That's true. They do not.
Oh man, I didn't realize this was the exact same building. This is going to be such a good weekend. I'm
It's gonna be fucked up.
more and more excited.
Oh yeah, I'm totally. I was already hyped. Like this just increased the hype meter a little bit more. I can go like run into Evangeline Lilly or whatever. Sounds great. I know we mentioned this, but we have 11 listener questions. Derek, do you want me to pop open this judge pack now or wait until the very end?
Wait a minute. You totally either these are new or you totally dropped the ball on telling me the most important people that were going to be at this thing. I am definitely heading over now. Fucking
Enlighten me.
Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. I can go meet Daredevil and the Kingpin.
Yep. Daredevil and Kingpin.
I love
and also
D'Onofrio.
Thor from Adventures in Babysitting or Private Pyle from Full Metal Jacket.
From Full Metal Jacket or the douchebag from Jurassic World.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember his character's name, but I just remember that he did the douchebag thing incredibly well. Alien from Men in Black.
Men in Black, yep. We've got Men in Black.
He's and so much stuff that I love.
Oh yeah. He is great. And I would love to just run up on D'Onofrio. I don't think I'm going to pay to get in the convention and like pay to get in the lines, but whatever. If I like run into him in the hall,
I'm just going to hang out. No, I'm just going to like hang out outside and then ask him if he wants to learn Flesh and Blood.
Sure. Like be an evangelist. Like,
listen, the one time I got to meet Al Gore, I asked him if he wanted to play euchre with me. So this is not new territory for me.
Fair enough. He does kind of seem like a euchre player.
Yeah, he looked at me like I was insane. I don't.
Yeah.
I think he thought I was speaking a foreign language. Very clearly, does not know what euchre is. But I guess that makes sense. He's from the South.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
I probably should have said spades, knowing the demographic.
Wow. So I've got this thing. Do I open it now or do I open it at the very end?
Now. I don't know why you haven't already opened it. Show me that Dami Mommy.
Now?
Now.
Oh my God. Okay, we're doing it now. I am going to. The camera will be the first to see this.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Now.
Isn't that what Dill O'Reilly said in the Pickle Posse?
I think so. Okay, so it's going to the camera first. I can't see for sure. Oh, fate foreseen, sir.
Fate foreseen, another thing that I still potentially need for my Bravo decks, because apparently the judges all play Bravo. Pummels,
that's what it really seems like, doesn't it?
Smashing Good Times.
That's a nice one. I like that.
I was gonna say I try to tilt it left and right because I want to see, does the orb have cold foiling?
Yes,
it does. Oh. So this is pretty. This is the best way in cold foil, in my opinion, that one could ponder the orb.
It is true. I'm getting at least 2 more bites at the apple for judge packs too. The judges that are doing these they'd rather have the money or trades towards what they need than these, and I'm just like, sure, I'll take them.
Yeah.
So Fate Foreseen is, I think I might be ahead now in what I've spent on judge packs. That feels good.
I'm trying to remember everything that was in this round of them, but I feel like that's got to be top 3, right? Like after Ardor and Vincent, I think that's the next one I would want. unless I'm forgetting
Art of
one.
War, Vincent, Smashing Good Time, Last Ditch Effort, and then the actual judge cards.
Right. And as somebody who doesn't really do the like judge cards, like I'm not a Typanis guy or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I've played Last Ditch Effort in decks or whatever, but not nearly the frequency. Like Fate Foreseen, I play that in Uzuri, I play that in Bravo, you know what I mean? Like that I could get like theoretically mileage out of if I were to ever play it and not just drool over it. Yeah, no, I think that would
really
be
pretty.
I mean, yeah, when you did the left and right and you could actually see the cold foiling on the orb, I was like, all right, now I can ponder that orb.
Oh, I ponder it for days. So, Derek, time for those 11 listener questions. You ready?
I mean, no, but yes.
Why is it always no with you?
Because I'm never ready.
Okay, fine. All right. First question is from Ravenger King. This is our good friend Benny. If Flesh and Blood ever made cards from different IPs like Magic does, would that change your outlook on the game? Is there a certain IP you would want, and why would it be My Little Pony? I'll let you go first.
So the first part, yeah, I think it would change my outlook on the game. It's so weird because young me really wanted to see other stuff enter the Magic the Gathering universe. Young me, especially when you think like early aughts when Lord of the Rings was big and I was playing the like Lord of the Rings Decipher game, that's what got me thinking. I was like, man, it'd be really cool if, you know, hypothetically there was like a Godzilla Magic card. And then of course we got that at some point. And I wanted to be excited for it, but the problem is now that I'm older, I realized that was just, it wasn't like in the spirit of trying to make Magic better.
Right.
It really felt like it was the byproduct of
grab.
Capitalism. Right. And I feel like one, James White and everybody over at LSS, they have done such a wonderful job of trying to stop taunting me. They've done such a wonderful job of trying to be very thoughtful, not just with the game, but with the way they treat their characters, the way they treat this, you know, I hate saying intellectual property when I describe this, because even though that's what it is, that makes it feel like scumbaggy capitalist. It's really just like they care about these characters and the world. And so that's why we don't just get spammed with merch, even though we all want it. And we don't get spammed with stories and everything else, because, you know, I've heard James say things like, you know, once you put something in print, you can't take it back. And so we want to make sure that when we breathe life into these things, it is, you know, part of the vision that we see for the world of Wraith and not just like spitting stuff out for our game. And so knowing that if they were to introduce things from another intellectual property, it would change my outlook on the game. I would think that either they are, you know, running out of funds. I would think that maybe they were getting ready to sell to a bigger investment firm or something, or sell out to Hasbro, or heaven forbid somebody worse. Whatever. I'm not saying that I would never want to see it, but that's just how I feel right now. Now, if they were absolutely going to do some sort of crossover, I feel like the best crossovers would be anything that would be like combat centric or fighting based, right? So I know that the Universus system has already done some of this stuff in the past, but if you were to, you know, say like, hey, you know, combatants from the World of Wrath are going to the Mortal Kombat tournament, and then we're also going to have like a Sub-Zero hero or whatever, right?
Soul Calibur was my answer.
Yeah, Soul Calibur is another one that was on my list. If you want to go like really old, because I'm also a Final Fantasy nerd, like Air Guys, you know, that sort of thing. But I do think that something in that realm makes the most sense. The only reason that I went to Mortal Kombat before Soul Calibur, even though I think Soul Calibur also fits just because like with the weapons and stuff, it makes sense, but Mortal Kombat already has that built-in theme of like pulling in people from like different worlds. So yeah, story-wise, I think it's an easier sell. The talents that exist in Flesh and Blood could easily go over.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
So But yeah, like I don't necessarily want to see it, but that would be my answer. Like if it had to be something, it's got to be
Fighting
like a
games.
fighting game and like tie-in, yeah, or a fighting like franchise,
Sure.
You know, from films, right? Give me Tom Poe from Bloodsport or whatever.
That Tong Po is kickboxer,
Oh yeah, you're right.
but yeah,
You're right.
I get you.
I always confuse those two.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Fine, give me Dolph Lundgren's character from Universal Soldier. Does that count?
Sure, sounds great. Holy fuck. Yeah, it would be Soul Calibur. It would change my mind. Like one of the things I love about Flesh and Blood is it feels like that they make the game for the players. And yes, they are a company. I am not immune to the fact that they are trying to make money. I get it. But they've had numerous opportunities to just print money regardless of the quality of what they were doing and have elected not to. So it would be really difficult for me to reconcile one with the other. Like that's kind of where it's at. But yes, it would change my opinion. Soul Calibur, though, would probably be my ultimate answer just because it's already weapon based.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier that way to kind of integrate. But the Mortal Kombat idea also makes sense just because of the entire drawing people into Outworld.
Well, and the weapon thing, some of the characters are missing them, but like in my head, because you don't have to do all of them. So like in my head, it's like, you know, you have Melina and then her weapons would be size. You would have, you know, you know, you could have Katana with fans. You could have, I still think like Sub-Zero could be a wizard class and he just is throwing ice bolts or whatever anyway.
Scorpion has this chain. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like I feel like there's enough there where you could still make that work, but
Goro has 4 arms.
I have 4 arms. I have tattoos.
You have 4 arms, not 4 arms. You're not hearing the. Okay, well, we're moving on. Okay. The next question is from Rich G. He said, here's one. Would Fab benefit from having their own Helene Bergeau? I'm making a large assumption that one or both you remember. I do. For instance, Brian wouldn't need to answer design gripes directly. Major announcements will come from one source, etc. So Helene Bergeau, in the heyday of Magic, was the face of organized play. She was fucking incredible at her job. And it was weird because you could tell that she was a person that cut her teeth in PR, but she really fucking loved Magic. Like she really did. And then in 2016, 17, somewhere in that general area, it might even been 15, but they let her go for undisclosed reasons. But I'm not going to speculate on them. I know some of the story. I'm not going to get into it. It's not my story to tell. And so, but she would handle all of those questions related to the game in social media, in in person at Pro Tours or Grand Prix. She was there frequently. She was very approachable and really just took the time to address people and their concerns or whatever it was in a very humane way. But also, like, she had a good biting sarcasm. I also love that about her. But I think that Flesh and Blood isn't so big that they need one. Would they benefit from one? Potentially. Like, quite honestly, it wouldn't be so bad to take some of that pressure off of somebody who's also trying to design the fucking game. But I think Brian does do a good job of emulating a lot of what Helene was good at. And Brian was around Magic at the time that Helene Bergeau was running, was doing that. So if he is taking any notes from her, I mean, that's it, right? And so I feel like it would be beneficial, but I don't know that it's necessary as of yet. But as the game grows, I mean, if I were LSS, I would just call fucking Helene Bergeau. Like, that's, who knows what she's doing these days. I haven't kept up. I don't even think I follow her on Twitter, even though I think she still has one. But so, yeah, I do think it'd be beneficial. Personal opinion.
So it's interesting how things kind of like change your mind. And I think part of it for me is that it had been so long since I knew what that experience was like that I don't know. Like if you would have asked me this a couple of months ago, I would have said, I don't think it's necessarily necessary. Even now, I don't think that I would say it's necessary, but I do think that they would definitely benefit from it for a couple of reasons. One, Flesh and Blood, more so than really any other card game on the market, really embodies the spirit of competition in my mind. When it comes to competitive play, I don't think there's a game that does it better. And it feels weird that there's that kind of vacuum for being the face of the thing that is like the marquee seller outside of the game itself, right? Like there's the game itself and that's your seller. But if you were to say like, hey, what are the strengths of Flesh and Blood? Like organized play for me and in the competition and whatever is going to come up in the conversation. And so for game design stuff, obviously you can point to Brian, like you said, and he does a good job trying to answer everybody's questions, even when it's not his job. God's bless him. James, similarly, like you said, he's doing a bunch of things, and so it shouldn't probably rest on his shoulders. But the big thing that changes it for me is that, fun fact, I play a bunch of card games and I cover other card games, and I do a show called Wampa Radio with Flake, friend of the show and author of The Stoic, as well as Doa from esports fame. And Star Wars Unlimited Fantasy Flight Games, for this game, I know that they actually have not done this historically in the past, but for this game that's coming out next year, they actually have somebody who is just their like head of organized play. Yep. And he's been publicly, doing talks about the program, and they have this the 3 C's for their card games going forward, right? It's, collect, connect, and compete, and just all of these things that have been very refreshing. And that has kind of changed it because it'd been so long since I'd seen somebody like do that job that I was like, oh yeah, it's actually really nice to have a point of contact and, pick their brain about, what's coming. And even if you don't have like answers that they can give you, just knowing that there's somebody there. And like, yes, I know that there is somebody at LSS that does this. Like I know his name. I've met him in person at Baltimore, but outside of like running into him at events or whatever, it's not the same, right? No. It's not that public presence. And so I do feel like it is something that LSS and Flesh and Blood would benefit from. Absolutely.
Well said. Moving on, question 3 of 11 is from Big Lou. Big Lou says, happy 100 episodes. Thanks, buddy. It's been a hell of a journey to get here, and it's been great watching it happen. Y'all are the inside baseball morning radio show shock jocks of Fab and are unapologetically you. I'll take it. You fill an important role in the community, and if LSS can't see that, then their loss. Well, again, thank you. Anyway, instead of typical retrospective, reflective bullshit questions, allow me to ask this. What do you feel was the biggest story in competitive Fab, or what has had the most impact on the game in the time you've been doing the show? Once again, congratulations and love you guys. Love you too, Lou. Thank you. You've been around since close to the beginning, and it's sincerely appreciated on all ends. Biggest story. That's an interesting one. If I'm being honest, it was Worlds in San Jose in a tent. Just kind of in its own microcosm, because one, it was the first world champion, so it's a big deal, right? And then the fact that it was sort of an event that was, and LSS has acknowledged this, that was put on in conditions that were not okay to have your world champion, your premier event being held in and being taken seriously. I think that created a whole lot of, I mean, it's negative, right? And I think the fallout from it though has been positive. I think that LSS has learned a lot from that one event. And to me, that's probably the biggest story in competitive Flesh and Blood, and has also had the most impact on the game, because LSS is now like, okay, we are never doing that again. We are not going to put our players in a spot where they don't feel okay being there, and the accommodations aren't great, and especially for the pinnacle of the game. And they have started treating the game and the competitive scene with a little bit more reverence since then, and making sure that the experience is great for everybody that's there, regardless of why they're there. So I think that probably has had the most impact. Charmer, what do you think?
A little bit of a difference of opinion. The way this question is worded. So what do you feel was the biggest story in competitive Flesh and Blood? Whether or not I personally cared about it, there was two things that I think got more people talking when I think about like public social discourse. And it's hard for me to decide which one generated more, just because one has a bit more recency bias. But basically the two things that I think has generated more discussion than anything else was one, Matt Folks with his big wins, because, you know, for better or worse, he has a reputation about him. I've never personally had any problems with Matt. He's always been kind to me. But I understand people's trepidation, and I've, you know, heard, you never know when people go into things with like preconceived notions or whatever, but, you know, we've all heard stories from him, like, you know, he rules sharked me or whatever and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, better or worse, I remember that being a very big deal, right? Like the aftermath of the win, there were people who was literally saying like it was a stain on the competition of the game. I don't necessarily agree with that statement. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I feel like that's a bit far. But that generated dialogue for sure. And then the other thing is, and again, this one's the more recent, so trying to not just lean on recency bias, but I will describe it as the pummel heard round the world.
Pummelgate.
Pummelgate. The pummel that never was. Just generated a lot of discourse.
Just we're back to Britain, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so whatever it is over there, it stirs up controversy. And those are what I would describe as the biggest stories, just based on social talk, social discourse. Now, I don't think those are the most important story, just that they were the biggest. To me, I think the most important story is one that began with Michael Hamilton winning Worlds and then has just progressed further into this year. The biggest story to me in terms of importance is that Flesh and Blood, more than any other card game, has shown that the best players in the world are winning more frequently than the best players in the world win at other card games. And it's a fine line. And I understand exactly what Brian talks about when he talks about needing to get some more variance in the game. And I don't even necessarily disagree with that statement. But, you know, we are, when I say we, I say like as a collective group, we are card game lovers and competitors, right? Those two things don't always go hand in hand. We love card games because every game is different, and then the adaptation is part of the fun. Solving the puzzle in real time is part of the fun. However, we like to compete, and so we like things to be very like by the line predictable. Like we want to be able to navigate it perfectly. We don't want any variance to mess with us. We want to feel like, you know, we're just 3,000 IQ all the time. And so there is a line that needs to kind of be ridden here, but Flesh and Blood is just showing that if they want this to be a competitive game, they've carved out a niche where the best players can still win, but other people still have a chance to compete as well. I think that they've kind of done that beautifully, and that the history of the events and the way that even if it's not always the same winner, you're seeing a lot of people, you know, the Brodies, the Michael Fangs, you know, across the pond, the Pablos.
yeah,
There's just these people that routinely do very well. And I think that overall, to me, that's the most important story when it comes to competitive Flesh and Blood, which is that it's still a card game, but it's also competitively viable. It's not chess, but it's not Pokemon. And that's not like meant to be a shot at Pokemon, but I feel like there is, you know, a bit more variance, at least in the current meta for that
Sure.
game than say a Flesh and Blood. So, to me, that is the thing that is the most important story. As far as like what's had the most impact on the game since I've been doing the show, yeah, this is probably a cop-out answer, but I would just say the fact that it's still around. It's very easy to take for granted that most card games fail in the first 2 years. And Flesh and Blood was a little indie company from New Zealand that tried to launch during, the pandemic,
Right before
essentially.
it, yeah.
Like they went live and then the world shut down, and they were not just like, oh, like the world shut down, but also like in a country that was one of the most shut down on the planet. And then they're still here and they are thriving. I know that there's again a lot of discourse sometimes about like less participation since Bright Lights or my attendance is down, but LSS has those numbers for engagement through Gem and all of that, and everything seems to still be at least doing well enough for them that they can continue to operate, several years later. And I tip my hat to them, because that is
It's hard to do.
that is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like it's a bigger deal than I think we give them credit for. Not since the early 90s has a company been able to do from scratch what they have done.
No, I completely agree. It's always remarkable to me what LSS has been able to accomplish, particularly with the headwinds they faced, and also with a juggernaut that already exists. That's such a big
few
deal.
Juggernauts. Like
right.
that's
Like, but I mean, they're really
their main competitor is Magic.
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
really more targeted towards the Magic niche than the Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon niche. Like in growing up, not growing up, I'm fucking old, but when card games were growing, it was always you played Pokemon and then you graduated to Yu-Gi-Oh, then you graduated to Magic. And then it was you graduate from Pokemon to Magic and skip Yu-Gi-Oh unless you wanted a life of crime. So that's typically how that always wound up. And I think that Flesh and Blood would love to be the graduated game now. So that's where I see it in competition with Magic.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I see it. Next question is from Cass Bellerin. How's it going, buddy? What's a good nickname for Dagon, and why is it Day One Dagon? So there's been a lot of Dagon roasting lately. I'm not going to say it's undeserved. It probably is exactly deserved.
I actually really like Dagon, even though he doesn't talk to me.
He's a good dude. What the fuck do you mean he doesn't talk to you?
I can tell you like literally nothing about Dagon, because he's always wherever I am, but he just doesn't talk to me.
No, he's always in the middle of playing. This is one of the things he regrets the most whenever I talk to him.
Okay.
He's just like straight up.
I didn't say there wasn't a reason for it. I'm just saying the only time I've ever spoken to Dagon is when he was in his Dagon Black persona and he was lit at one of the Realm events.
It's true.
So actual Dagon, I don't really know, but he's always been very kind to me. So the reason that I like to slander said Dagon is mostly because I believe in punching up. So the people that I like to insult are the people that I look up to in one way, shape, or form. So Dagon is a great player. I would like to be a great player, but since I am not, I punch up. Flake is a great author. I wish I was a great author, but I'm not, so I punch up. That sort of thing.
Yeah, let me just go on record a little bit here. Yes, we do blast Dagon a lot. He's a friend, and that's part of it. We hurt the ones we love. But this is, in all sincerity, Dagon's a great dude, and I'm happy to have him around. He's once you kind of get the shell to crack a little bit, dude's funny as fuck. He's a good hang.
He made me sleep on a couch once, but
he didn't make you. You volunteered because you said you were already comfy, you asshole.
I don't remember it going down that way.
You were playing some weeb shit, and you didn't want to move.
Yeah. Okay. You're right.
All right.
You know what? You know what we haven't said yet for this 100th episode? How did we miss this? Fuck you, Mara.
Oh,
and you want to know why? Because
she won a ProQuest.
Well, and because she's gay icon Mara Ferris, and I wish I was a gay icon.
I mean,
so I'm punching up.
We all wish we were.
Right?
Yeah. So fuck
you, Mara.
Fuck off, Mara. God, gay icon. Can't believe that shit. Moving on. Speaking of punching up, because the prettiest man on the planet has decided to grace us with a question. This is from Darth Prentice. Congrats on 100 episodes, you beautiful fuckers. Again, thank you. I'm curious, how many decks/archetypes do you think exist in Bright Lights Limited? This seems like a very deep format. I'm sure Brian Go and the LSS team baked several in that the Fab community have yet discovered. I'm going to take this and say, not very.
Oh, that's funny. I have a very different answer to this.
So I think there's two ways to look at this. And the level 0 and the level 4 and the level 3 play are identical. And that's not great because level 0 is just draft Teklo. Level 1 is, well, beat but draft Max to try to leverage Teklo. Then level 3 is, okay, draft, Dash to, maybe level up Max because Max doesn't block as well because they need items and stuff like that. And then you're back to level 3 is, well, then just play Teklo. So right. And then, so to me, it's
what I'm
reductive.
Hearing from you is that, but the thing is that the question is, how many decks or archetypes do you think exist? So it sounds to me like you think there's just 3 decks, one for each hero. And my answer is, I think that there are 5 different ways that you can play in Limited.
No. I want to be clear here. When he's talking about the depth in Bright Lights Limited is drafting decks versus cards. That's the depth in Bright Lights Limited.
Yeah.
The problem you run into in Bright Lights Limited is that is such a, what's the best way to put this? That is such a high concept strategy in Limited that it's missed by too many people at a table and your draft is sunk.
Well, sure, but his question was, worded so because he says it feels like a deep format, and I'm sure that, Brian and the LSS team had, baked in several that they haven't discovered. And so I agree. That's all I'm saying. Yes, I think it is missed. I think that there are some people who go in very dismissive because they just don't like mech. I think there are people who go in because, as you said, the level 0 is just draft Teklo. And so if you don't want to do the super deep, then yeah, it can be absolutely reductive. It's also, I think, easy to be missed because very, very good players might still land on just draft Teklo, for example, which makes it seem like, hey, the basement and the ceiling are one and the same, even though they might not necessarily be. But I do think that there's quite a bit of depth there. Like I said, I think there's 5 different ways to approach Limited, having played quite a bit more of it now. I think that Teklo Fatigue is the safest. It's the one you're going to see the most common. That is basically the Fi of this format, right? Where if you don't know what else to do, you could just try to, force Teklo Fatigue and you'll probably be fine. But there is what I would describe as Surprise Dash, right? Where you're trying to mix the items, you catch the Boom Grenade or you catch a Megahertz script off the top, and then you do a combo for a big burst. I think that one is very high risk, high reward. I equate it to trying to play Rhinar in Limited, where you're just trying to OTK somebody, and if you don't, then you just lose. But it's I've seen people do it. I think there is the what I would describe as traditional way to play Max. The traditional way to play Max is, as you said, to also get some items in, like you pick up some hyperdrivers in the set, you pick up some of the other items that have cranks so that you're not, all in on his hero power is the only way to do it. And that's also fine. But then outside of those basic 3, I think that the next level is to play what I call Boost Dash, which is you select Max anyway, because he's the best one to do it with. But you just play it as if the hero text is secondary, and you draft all of the best 1 for 5, 0 for 4 with boost cards that you can. And then any leftover pitch you have, you pitch into Max to make a hyperdriver. So basically, imagine playing Boost Dash, but every blue is also swinging with a weapon for 3, right? 2 of it goes to making a hyperdriver, 1 goes into Banksy. That's also entirely viable, and it's not the same way as doing the traditional dash, but it's 100% a deck. And then the 5th option, and this one takes a little bit more work, is you can also play Dash instead of going for the Surprise Dash. You can play Fatigue Dash, where you go with the defensive items. So the same way that Teklo goes with the Evos, you go with the defensive items, the ward ones and the whatever. and you're relying on the fact that your weapon will fire without pitch. So you can still go with the like 4 block hands essentially, and then still fire your weapon, right? And so you outvalue somebody over time if you can pull it off.
I texted,
those are
my wife to bring me another beer. That's why I was paying
Yeah,
attention.
You're fine. I don't blame you. Like if I'm speaking and you feel the need to drink, I know I'm doing my job. I have put the listeners to sleep.
No, you just make me need another beer. Because I realize that this answer is going to go until
Listen, you got me talking about like design stuff, and I'm excited. And this is a Flesh and Blood podcast. Somebody asked a Flesh and Blood question. I got to play Flesh and Blood recently. Let me talk about
that's true. I should just let you cook. You're right.
But anyway, so sorry, Giga Greg or whatever.
Giga Chad Greg. It's just Giga Greg now.
Yeah, Giga Greg. I was trying to give you a real answer, but I guess the answer is fuck Charger.
I don't think that we got that far, but I do think you made some salient points. I just think that you're kind of held prisoner in this draft format by the competency is the wrong word. I would say the experience of the people at the table with you.
That's every draft, though.
Some less so.
Some less so, but all of the best ones, like Aria was my other favorite set to do. And let me tell you, Aria, you were definitely held hostage by whatever else was.
No, if you look at the best draft formats across history of all games, yes, you are correct. And because I remember being like, okay, I got some early pick Eldrazi enablers in an ROE draft, and then I'm like, where are the Eldrazi? Like, where are they? And it was somebody at the table was like, big number go burr card. And it's like, how do you ever plan on casting that? I never got that far. It's like, you're never getting to 11 mana. Like, you're
big number go burr.
So now I'm stuck with everything that would make my big number go burr with no big number. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about with getting held hostage by the table. And you're right. It does happen in the best draft formats.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see.
The good news is, according to some people on Twitter, though, this set has like 4 different versions of the exact same card. So there should be enough to go around,
you
right?
Would think.
There's no depth at all in this set.
0. 0 to 50. That's all there is.
Yeah. It's just strictly worse,
It's just strictly worse. Next one is from valued patron Blaze Storm. Just want to make sure I point that out because of some little bit of derision on Charmer's part last episode. But
what do you mean on my part? I've only ever said nice things about Blaze Storm. Excuse you, sir.
Excuse me, huh? Blaze Storm says 100 in a row every week. Thank you and congratulations, guys. Who else can say that? That's a good question. I don't know.
I think Flake is at 102.
He has missed though. He missed like 4 weeks or 5 weeks. We might have the consecutive number.
Yeah. We have the Iron Man record.
Right.
And by we, I mean you.
Well, okay. It's a we. We are a we, sir. And we're not a me. I've been here since episode 62 and y'all are my guaranteed weekly show. Again, thank you. Whether talking Flesh and Blood or going so far off the rails, the tracks will never be seen again. Also valid. I'm here for it. Love you both. Hope I get to meet you in person someday. Me too, man. Come to Columbus. I know that you said that you wouldn't, but you really should. I don't have a question so much as a talking point, as you're both quite knowledgeable. Now you're lying.
I tried to do my part, but then I got chastised.
Oh, fuck off. On either side, tell me about the Kasai v Bravo matchup, please. Okay, with pleasure.
Oh, we can actually talk about this because we played it.
Right. And so on the Kasai side, I'll take the Kasai side.
Sure.
From the Kasai side, your goal in the Bravo matchup is to, as with Oldhim 2, it was actually both. Your goal is to get them to overcommit on blocks and not realize that they've done that to their detriment. And then you just switch to fatiguing them, because once they start overcommitting, they will either let you have coppers, which they should never fucking do, or they have to kind of continue down the same road, and everything in your deck blocks 3, and all of your equipment blocks great. So the odds of them getting like something over on you and crushing you or something like that and pivoting the game is very unlikely. You just have to know what things you can kind of let slide and what things you need to make sure you block out or don't get crushed by, and that's really it. The fun part of that matchup is the light going out in the Bravo players' eyes when they realize that you've been playing them the entire time and their asses are gonna get fatigued. It's the same as like when you're playing Zuri and you come in with a 1 stealth or a 3 stealth and they're like, oh shit, okay, block, and then you're like, activate their Zuri, slam a card down, reacts, and they're like, staunch it. It's like, and then you flip a 1 stealth as the thing you snuck in, and just again, you get to watch the light go out of their eyes as they realize that they just wasted an entire turn because you just played them. It's that same feeling when you're playing Kasai into Bravo and you see that when they realize that they have like, it's, you jam in with a go again sword and they're like, block 6. Okay, swing with the next one. Block, reacts, no reacts on my end. Fate Foreseen. Great. You blocked 6 on 2 twice. You got it, buddy. And then you move on. That's what you're doing on the Kasai side. And if you realize that they're not going to let you do that, you just play the gotcha game and you generate coppers. And you probably have to blow blood in our hands before you have the full gambit, but you don't need them. Like, you will win you'll beat through their defense with 4 coppers. You don't need all 6. So that's how that matchup runs from the Kasai side. How's that run from the Bravo side?
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, we're telling the exact same story, but from different sides.
Right.
So if you're the Bravo player, you have to understand that you cannot win this by blocking. You will only win by offense, and it's not going to be 1 or 2 big attacks. It's going to be 5 or 6.
Yep.
Because as he said, it's Warrior. They have a fridge, and you have to make them go to it as soon as possible so that it's not there, so that you can hit it again. And specifically, the stuff that you really want to prioritize to make sure that you are like either throwing their way so they have to commit the fridge or making sure that you hit are not just what I would describe as disruption, but very specifically Spinal Crush to stop the go again or hand disruption. So it has to be, obviously everyone knows crippling, but your pummels are very important. The pummels have to connect. You have to strip a card. Similarly, Tear Asunder is very, awesome. Very important in that matchup.
Don't forget Starstruck, though.
It is worth an Arsenal slot. Absolutely. Even though it's a blue and most people are like, okay, well, it's the blue block 3 or whatever, and maybe you have upside against Kasai. You want to be playing the Tear Asunders. Absolutely. Because again, you need offense. There's no way you're winning this unless you get them on their back foot, but you cannot go toe to toe. You can't no block them and then swing back and have them no block you and win that fight. So the only way you win is when you deal damage. They also then can't swing enough back at you. And the best way to do that is to strip their hand. So those are that's what you're planning for. Yes, there will be some turns where, depending on what you draw, you do have to block out. It's not going to feel good. But it's fine. As Logan said, you don't want to try to give them coppers if you can help it. The one exception that I personally would say is that if you get a hand where, you have arsenaled, a crippling, and you're staring at a hand of you're able to dominate a spinal. So it's not just one turn, but you're likely going to go back to back heavy turns. I might be okay with letting them get some copper just because I know that it's going to be, 2 or 3 turns before they get to use it effectively. So that is a bit different, but that's a very situational thing. But at its core, it's that you cannot win through blocking. You have to hit them, and it has to be stuff that hits their hand when at all possible. Starstruck is new. Obviously, it's a very good card, and it is another thing that I think you would want to prioritize there. But the only reason that I wasn't mentioning it as much is because the last time Logan and I beat each other's face in for this matchup, Starstruck wasn't printed yet. But it's definitely a tool that should be in the deck now. It's basically where I used to play Crush the Week. I now just stuck in Starstruck and never looked back. So,
yep. And if you're looking for like, where's the advantage in this? Historically, it's Kasai. Just because there's two avenues for Kasai to win, and there's one for Bravo. So Kasai has two rails to play on, and Bravo only really has one.
You have to win through dominate. Like you can't fatigue the Kasai. So you have to win by leaking damage. You have to get them on the back foot. You're going to do that through dominated effects. I also am a big fan. So this is always hard. Is like the going first versus going second. Like on the one hand, you don't want to let them arsenal and start setting up any big combo turns. On the other hand, you, as I said, want to be impacting their hand whenever possible so that they have weaker turns against you. So there's not a good answer. You're probably going to feel bad no matter what you do. But that to me is a sign of, again, that is like, it's just not like a good matchup for the Bravo player. It's not unwinnable, but it's not a good matchup. It's not one that you're excited to see.
No, it's definitely not. And yes, you can do. So the other trick is there's a lot of Kasai, me included, who will run at least one Nourishing Emptiness and don't get fooled by it. Like, it's okay to get hit by a Nourishing. Do not commit your equipment to the Nourishing, because there are worse things out there than Nourishing Emptiness. Like, just saying.
Yeah, and it also depends on your hand, but I'll be honest. Like, if I'm staring at like, hey, I might be able to, throw a big dominated attack. One of the things you have to remember, like, let's say, if it's like mid game or whatever, you've got some of the equipment out of the way and you feel relatively confident that you can land a dominated crippling, for example, let the Nourishing through. Doesn't matter how big their hand is. They're only blocking with one card anyway. And then you're going to strip two more. You've still disrupted their hand and leaked damage. And again, you cannot win that matchup without leaking the damage.
Right.
So you have to take it. Right. So yeah, absolutely. I will no block a Nourishing depending on what my hand state is and what the game state is.
Do not be greedy. And what I mean by that is a Terra Sundered Crippling Crush is a waste.
No, absolutely a waste.
Do not do that.
You want to string together turns. Similarly, like, don't pummel your Terra Sunders. Don't pummel your Crippling Crushes if you can help it. Your Spinals, whatever. You want every turn to be a disruption, not one turn of mega disruption. Like, who cares if they take one turn off? You want them on like a 2 or a 3 card hand for 4 or 5 turns in a row. Like, that's the only way you win that.
And again, Kasai's entire deck blocks 3.
Yep.
And so if you're just going to say, all right, string this together,
it's like 10 extra health from equipment or something stupid like that.
At minimum, you get effectively 1 every turn from Dynamo. And then you have a minimum of 2, 4, 6 with your other equipment. And if you're playing in that, you might, depending on first or second, you might play Skullcap with 3. So you're at 7 with the rest of your equipment at minimum. Or sorry, not 7, 8 with the rest of your equipment at minimum. So you're looking at probably 14 to 15 extra
How many
health.
of those are like, I was going to say, how many of those are like Battle Worn and Temper though? Like, that's why I was saying, I think it's like
Courage
10.
is Temper.
Yeah. So it's like the block once and potentially block again.
Dynamo's the real problem because it's literally blocking 1 every turn. Brave Forge is Battle Worn, so it blocks 3. And then your headpiece, depending on first or second and depending on what you're trying to do, if you're playing Skullcap, a lot of the times you're going to get block 3 out of it, which is awesome. But if you're on the play, a lot of times you're going to play Crown instead because it's just a guaranteed 2. The odds are you're going to know which, if you're playing first, you're going to know which path you're going to take to win the game with the first swing of the sword. Like, if they're just committing 2 cards and 2 cards, fatigue the shit out of them. Like, don't even think about it. The odds that their hand was that bad is basically 0 in a 40 card deck. So at that point in time, you know that they're just trying to prevent your on hits. Fuck them. Just keep delivering and make them have an answer. And eventually they'll try something. If it's not going to kill you, don't care. Just let it go. Doesn't matter. If it's going to kill you, you have this entire suite of equipment that says, I don't give a shit. And so it turns into that matchup very quickly. And that's why it's hard on Bravo, to be honest. Okay, that was fun. That was probably the most in-depth strategy talk we've ever had on this show.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Probably.
All right. Next one's from Vintox. He says, okay, so 100 episodes strong. What are your fondest memories of the last 100 weeks of doing the pod? Also, what are things you look forward to or would like to do in the future of the pod? Well, Derek's only been here for, only, Jesus, that's stupid. About 40.
It's almost a year.
Yeah, it's close.
Up on it.
I think it's 44 weeks or 46 weeks right now. But well, how many weeks are left in the year?
That's what I'm saying. Like I started right after the new year. That's why.
Like we can actually do the math. We have the technology. So
yeah, I should be at around 44 weeks.
I think it's 44. Yeah, we have like 12 weeks left in the year. So yeah, so like 44 weeks. Mine, I look at the show and I even label them as this inside of the podcast like platform that I use. I always look at when Derek started as season 2 of the show. Because like it's a way for me to delineate, between the Jordan and Abby era and the Derek era, right?
Wait till you guys see season 3.
Season 3 is going to be fucking lit. I have no idea what it is yet, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. But my fondest memories, like that's hard because we've had so many just insane, like fun shit that we've done on this show. Whether it's this like Elaine talking about the theater or which still blows my mind, just perfect. Or Derek talking about how much he likes to serve at one point in time. That one got me phone calls, which was beautiful. There's nothing better in my mind. I know we've done our job. If I have a like 6 a.m. text message from Jordan commenting about something on the show, at which point in time I know we've done it right. Right. I think like one of my favorite memories is actually really early. Somebody sent an email to the show, to fleshandpod@gmail.com. Talking about how Jordan and I were misogynists and we always stepped all over Abby.
Yeah, not wrong. Tracks, continue.
Okay. So Jordan and I, we took that to heart. Like we were upset because we didn't think we did that. But if, obviously we're two inward looking people, we don't want that to be how people perceive us to act. And so we're kind of fretting. And so we kind of talked it through a little bit. Then we took it to Abby and Abby just basically said, no, you fucking idiots. Like if I had a problem with anything you're doing, don't you think that I would have told you to shut the fuck up? And I'm like, valid. And so on the next show, she's like, hey, let's address this. I'm like, okay, let's do that. And she comes and says, listen, there's something along the lines of, listen, I appreciate your concern, but trust me, if either of one of these two stepped out of line, they would be snapped back in line very quickly. You don't need to worry about me. I can take care of myself. And I'm just like, well said.
Yeah, no, that tracks.
Right. So that was a little interesting challenge just immediately at the beginning of the show. There's been a lot of challenges. If you go back to listen to episode 1.
The fun fact about that story is that the person who sent the email
was
actually it was Abby on a burner, and it was just so that next week she could step all over you guys.
That's probably true. And
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just making stuff up. This is a bit, but
yeah. So like I'm very proud. Is I guess the best way to put it. That what is it? Pride goeth before the fall, but that we've come as far as we have. When we start, I talk about this a lot, and I use the same lines about like when we started the show. We figured if we had 10 listeners, we'd be lucky, and within the first couple months, we had over 100, and now it's well over that. At
both of the ProQuests I've played at, I've had people come up and like ask me about the podcast, and that still feels really weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, same, but it happens to me everywhere I go too.
Well, but specifically for me, because it means somewhere along the line we crossed the threshold and people actually know who I am. I'm no longer being mistaken. I still do get some people who, hey, Tannen or whatever, and I appreciate that. But It's just weird because somewhere along the line, like it just like it flipped. And so whenever they say something or I don't, the other weird thing that happens is like, I don't feel like, even though I know that this is a Flesh and Blood podcast, that like when I'm at a Flesh and Blood event that people might be potential listeners. So I will say something that I've said on the show and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I listen to FAP or I listen to Flesh and Pod. Like I know you're going to Barcelona or whatever, or I know whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, there might be people who already know this. And then now I feel like a dumbass because I'm repeating myself, but A, how would I know? And B, it's not something that I am accustomed to expecting in any sense of the word. It's very weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's stopped. It's not as weird to me as it was in the beginning. And I think like we've done like a lot of work really to make sure that we've increased things like production values and giving a better experience, not you necessarily, but like making sure that we're responsive to feedback, to like real feedback, not just the Thappers being dicks to us, which I appreciate that too. But I think that we've been very good at that. And for the future, as I see it, the things I look forward to is, you know what, I'm sort of immune to this now, but honestly, the time that it'll feel like I've made it or that we've made it or whatever, however you want to put it. Cause I think that this is where it's a kind of a personal thing to me at this point, is when we get like that official recognition from LSS about, for what we've done. We say hashtag no free ads. We are 100 week long, 50,000 listens, and even more watches.
Yeah, but listen,
free
like,
ad for their fucking game.
I like. Okay, I need to pause. What I was about to say, I will instead. Somebody bring this up at the next FAP After Dark and say, Charmer, you are about to make a comparison about our podcast and the way LSS views us, and then I will tell you what initially came to my mind because that is something that I will not be doing for the recording.
All right. Well.
But I will say that. I at least understand some of it because
I get it. I really do. We are not brand friendly.
We are not brand friendly. Yes. At least on this show. But I will also say, on the off chance that somebody from Legend Stories does listen or does still listen, or maybe they just listen to this one because it's the special 100, whatever. I will say this. If that's also ever been a concern, all you have to do is tell us too. I think for me, no, just hear me out. I think for me, personally, and it's not just about this, but it's also about like in relation to casting opportunities or whatever, is that if there's ever been a concern, passing over without providing the feedback gives me no chance to rectify the problem, right?
Or address it.
Yeah, right. It's just one of those like, if there is a concern and then it's not communicated, I have zero ways that I can improve upon it, whether that is the content of the show, the type of casting that I do, whatever. Just no communication feels bad. So that would be the feedback that I would provide, right? I don't have like any ill will, and I fully understand why, as we've both said, like it's not exactly the most brand friendly show. And that's part of the appeal to many folks. And I also understand that. But I will just say that, if there's ever any sort of concerns, like you also could just tell us. And maybe we agree to disagree, and that's also fine. But not giving us anything is not
helpful.
It's hard to make those adjustments if they are needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. And it's, because like even at the ProQuest, in my hometown this past weekend, somebody was like, "Are you on a podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Which one is it?" I'm like, "Flesh and Pod." He's like, "Oh, it's the big one." And I'm like, "No, we're not the big one." He's like, "Well, you're one of the bigger ones." I'm like, "Are we?" He's like, "Yeah, a lot of people listen to you."
We are at least top 13.
We are 100% in the top 13. That is a given. But I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. We're long running. I know that. both in time of episode and number of episodes. Like we got them both covered at this point.
Yeah, we are the friends of Flesh and Pod.
That's very bad. That's a very poor choice right now. But
no, that's why it's the appropriate choice.
Because you want to be dead, and Matthew Perry is dead.
No, there's several tie-ins. Excuse you, sir. One, very long running. Two, arguably too white and culturally insensitive. Three, when I was younger, I only ever got 2 celebrity comparisons in my entire life. Both happened when I was in my early 20s, and one of them was Matthew Perry. The other one was David Arquette. Those are the only people that anyone has ever said that I looked like.
Wow.
Both of them are either dead or want to be dead right now, so that is also very apparent. And they both have a
Friends tie-in.
They both have a Friends tie-in, absolutely. There's so many... There's so many ways I think that it's apt. Some would argue just not funny, low quality.
Oh yeah, that too. Yep. Low hanging fruit only. Yeah, not a lot of depth.
But still beloved. A comfort show for many.
A guilty pleasure, one might say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not all negatives. I have positives to say too.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Moving on, Zaris, maybe just Zaris. Okay, whatever. What kind of weird / meme decks have you played with or enjoyed? My friend wants Riptide desperately to work, and he's looking at meme decks to try and make something happen. My personal meme deck of choice is always going to be Shiana. Stuff the most expensive fucking cards you can find into it and meme away. That's my favorite. My backup plan is always KO because I just want to roll dice. That's it. Like those are my memes. That's what I do. Charmer, I don't think we've ever talked about you having a meme deck. So
it's because I kind of keep it close to me, but I do have one. It is what I describe as Let It Riptide. Okay. And it is a Riptide deck that might not have any arrows in it. If it does, it's only like 1 or 2. And they are like the 0 cost go again ones. And I think those, Falcon Wings. But basically the premise started with, there are a number of arguably very bad cards, that are like 0 for 3s, but if you play them from Arsenal, they have go again, right? So your trade-ins and, there's really like one in, there's like one in every set, right? But I kept saying to myself, like, if people run a bunch of block 3s just because they block 3, then like, why isn't it okay to run a bunch of attack 3s just because they attack for 3? That was the premise I started with. And then I was like, well, okay, but most of these like don't have go again. No, just hear me out, right? So then I was like, well, most of these don't have go again. And then like the shitty ones all have to come from Arsenal. And then it clicked. I was like, okay, so Riptide lets me put him in there for free. So it's like if every turn is Nimbleism, put the shitty thing in your arsenal, swing for 6, rinse, repeat. So it's nothing but it's like premeditates and Nimbleisms. And then, the 0 for 3s with go again. And then a few good Ranger cards just because, like I said, they're Falcon Wings or whatever. The bow is... it does have Enlightened Strikes, because those are still like 0s for go again or whatever. The bow is like Sand Scour because
great bow.
Just because like every now and then, if you have the pitch from Tunic up, you can play it for free, and if it's one of the Falcon Wings on top, it's just another free attack basically. But like, listen, it's not meant to be good. But I feel joy when I play it because it at its core, it's just like, hey, it's the blue block 3 deck, but in reverse, right? Like, math is for blockers.
Math
like
is for blockers. That's all I got to say. Oh my God. Yeah.
So that's my meme deck. All right. And I call it Let It Riptide.
Moving on. I got too much to say about that. We need to move on. Jacob Geeks First says, congrats on 100 episodes. Thank you. Maybe too late for episode 100. It is not. But if you could have one generic in heavy hitters, what would it be and why?
Ooh.
So my thought was a blue 6 attack, block 3, costs 2 to play, that if this is on the combat chain, it has -2 attack.
I still think that's too good.
It's a popper for Dromize, but Guardian doesn't want to actually play it. and Brute just would shove them all in the deck.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it's still too good.
I tried.
So the short, quick, cop-out, easy answer is reprint Pummel.
Well,
Because I want it in every set, but two, if I'm being honest, if there was ever a set where it would be reprinted, I feel like Heavy Hitters is it. You're gonna have Guardians, you're gonna have Brutes. It's Pummel and Heavy Hitters. Like, come on now. If I was like designing a generic, that one is a bit more difficult. I feel like generics are actually one of the hardest cards to balance, because sometimes like what Logan's talking about now, right? Like sometimes the text just doesn't even matter.
No.
Like Amnesia gets run in decks because of, again, stats.
It's a 6.
Right? Like it's a 6, it blocks for 3, and like people never even want to play it or whatever. I feel like as far as generics go, the thing that is at least like missing from the format in a more generic way would be something to destroy auras, right? There's some generics that can let you target items, but we don't really have, like, we have class specific cards that let you target auras,
but no,
but not anything like in a generic. And it doesn't need to blow up all of them, and it doesn't need to be a big thing, but even just like something along those lines, I feel like, if you can get rid of aura, maybe I don't know. And again, balance is hard, right? Like maybe that's still too good. I don't know. And how, the problem is that might not be too good now, but how does that impact your development and your design going forward for aura based classes, et cetera, et cetera? Like, there's a lot, but just like off the cuff, to me, when I think about like what's missing in the generics, like a bad version of something that also could maybe get rid of auras is what immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to change my answer, but like not change my answer, because I still think that there needs to be like a blue 6 somehow, some way, right? That makes it into the generic slot. Maybe that's a Guardian Brute card. I don't know, or maybe just a Brute card. I don't know, but I also, and I said this a million times, but I really want the Axe Pummel to show up. Like, give me the Axe Pummel, for God's sakes. Like, we've been waiting for fucking ever, it feels like, for the Axe Pummel. I think it's time.
I think it's time. I actually kind of want to see Twitter burn down. Hear me out. I want the set to have a bunch of blue block 3s with 6 attacks that are
that are non-brute.
That are non-brute. They're either Guardian or Warrior, or even Warrior Guardian.
Oh my God. The Brute squad will be so up in arms.
They will literally smash something.
Oh yeah, they will. Like, they will be pissed. But goddamn, that's a real one. I love that shit. That's amazing. The next question is probably my personal favorite of the week. It comes from Jim Neben. So Michiganer, if I remember right.
Yes, he got me back. I beat him in CC, and he came back, and he beat me in draft. Now, this was outside of the top 8. He was one of my losses pre-top 8, but he got the revenge this time around.
All right. The question was, what is in a FAP themed cocktail? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it just so happens that an expert in the field by the name of Papa Mike with IP5 Cocktails on Twitter is one of our patrons. So I asked Papa Mike, go ahead and DM me what this recipe is, and I will read it on air. And he did not disappoint.
There's only one way. I have not seen this. This is a live reaction for me, but I need you to know there's only one way he gets this wrong. So I'm going to be listening closely to see whether or not it's there.
Papa Mike says, in my mind, the FAP cocktail should be rich, thick, and creamy. Start with 2 pounds of freshly picked and pitted Michigan cherries, Throw those in a mason jar with 750 milliliters of high quality Iowa corn whiskey, a couple tablespoons of sugar, and a cinnamon stick. Keep that jar in the basement for 2 weeks and be sure to shake it around every couple of days. When ready, double strain the whiskey, pass through a coffee filter to get all the particles out. And the drink is the Fapper Flip. It is 3 ounces of our cherry whiskey, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and 1 whole egg. Combine all ingredients in a shaker tin and dry shake vigorously. Add ice and shake for 15 seconds. Double strain into a coupe and top with freshly grated nutmeg. This is a thing of beauty. What a fucking legend. What a fucking legend. Now, Charmer, why do you not like the creamy Fap cocktail?
Wrong. It's missing a key ingredient. He just had to have one ingredient for me to say, I agree. Literally, the rest could have been like, do cartwheels on the fucking moon. I don't care. Where is my goddamn pickles?
No, absolutely.
Pickle posse, rise up. If this thing doesn't have pickles, it is wrong.
Hold on. He did say the backup cocktail is a pickle juice dirty martini.
Redemption.
Pure redemption. Just redeemed in your eyes.
Yep.
Nothing. I think my favorite Flesh and Blood time that I had. The best time I ever had in Flesh and Blood was the original Speakeasy. Like that's kind of how everything jumped off, right? That's where everything kind of blew up from. But the second favorite would be in Vegas, hanging out with Tommy and Flake. And I guess Flake wasn't there for this part, but Tommy and Elaine's mom, and the Salty Sea Cat, friend of the show, buddy Dwayne from Iowa. They and then having Elaine order a vodka martini, extra dirty, 3 blue cheese olives, and a splash of pickle juice, and my stomach just turned immediately. Like, how in the fuck are you consuming this? Like, what the shit?
That blue cheese is curdling in her stomach.
Absolutely. It's still there. That was like 2 years ago or a year ago or whatever. That's fucking still there. Like, no way. Absolutely not.
That might have to be by default the Fap cocktail though, because like the blue cheese is a good Tommy call in too. Like it's kind of got a little bit of everything. You know, speaking of Tommy, just off subject, but I haven't talked to him in a while. I feel really bad. I should text him. I miss you, Tommy. If you're listening, I love you, buddy.
Yeah, I do miss Tommy Fresh. It's been too long. Awesome. Yeah, he's one of the best dudes. And there's a lot of people I can say that about, but it's Tommy's and I mean all of them, but Tommy's honestly a different level. That guy is the type of person that will go out of his way to make your experience or your existence better. He always wants to be the person. He never wants to be the person that's bringing down the party, and he plays to it. But it's also from a sense of like the warmest of like kindness, the warmest heart, the biggest dick. Like all of these are things that Tommy possesses. And I really do hope that he's doing well. I know that he just hurt his leg doing something. He said he hurt it hitting the stanky leg after he opened a tunic, which, I mean, come on, man. I have 4 sitting around here. But so like I hope that I get to see him soon. It's been too long. That's all. Last question. Are you ready?
I am, yes.
All right. This is from Goofla Brain, which is a new person. I have never, like, this is their first shot. With Halloween tomorrow, a themed question. Why, thank you. Which hero would give out the best candy on Halloween? Which would give out the worst? And which hero would try to hand out something other than candy? So I think best candy is Genus What You Need, because he's got what you need, right?
Yeah, well, and he's just rolling in bank. Like he's
right.
like, you know,
full-size
he's not
candy bars.
No, not full-size candy bars.
King-size
King size.
This motherfucker's next leveling the next levelers.
And this is also fresh on my mind because last night Stark literally said, I heard him talking to my wife and he said, I really hope I get a king size Twix.
Bro, me too. Me fucking too.
Right? Yeah,
Man.
me too.
But so that was an easy one. What would give out the worst candy? I would say so here's the thing. Part of me wants to say Max Nitro, but the people who had the least usually give out the best. You know? Like they just want to give back, and I think that'd be Max. I think it would end up being like Prism.
No, I think she's who's going to try to give out something other than candy.
I think Briar gives out something other than candy. She gives out like apples.
See, I think Prism does because one, she gives you something that is the illusion of good candy, and then it's fucking awful. Like she's the one who's giving out candy corn or whatever.
She's giving out peaches. Fuck
no,
her.
it's the illusion of candy. It's like, oh, look, it's candy corn. It has candy in the name, and you're like, no, this is awful. I hate it. Why would you do this?
Why do you hate candy? Why do you hate candy corn?
Because I'm convinced that all of candy corn was made in a single run in 1936 and that it's just been in the same silo. It tastes like my grandparents. I don't know how to describe it. It's just not good. And I don't even do this because it's like edgy or whatever. Like I remember as a kid just vehemently hating candy corn.
Oh my God.
It tastes like what like Fallout Shelter candy would taste like. Like I just, anyway. No, I think that somebody who would give out the worst candy would also be Oldhim. Oldhim strikes me as the hard candy. Like Oldhim is giving out like a Werther original, but it's like the off-brand one, right?
Yeah.
And, the one that like tastes like it tastes like a cough drop, but it's like a bad one on top of it. Like that's Oldhim, right? Like he's just in and like. When he drops it in, he accidentally drops a mothball in with it. You know what I mean? Like he's just got that old timey
vibe, the old person vibe.
It's got freezer burn, you know.
Somehow the hard candy has freezer burn. Like that's because I get it. I get it. Yeah. And then, so I think Briar is giving out like apples, because the whole nature vibe.
But apples are good. Like apples, I'm not
apples for the kids, weed for the parents. That's what she's doing. Is apples for the kids, weed for the parents. That's how she rolls. But we both can agree that Prism sucks, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Just making sure that's the case. Like Prism sucks.
Prism sucks.
Like beautiful. Man, it's been long. It's been long. I'm doing some flicking back right now. We'll see how far this will go in one spin. Not far enough. Okay, let's go. It's really difficult with as long as we've been doing this, which is a long fucking time, right?
I just realized our show notes is 143 pages and counting.
Yeah, sure is. And some of those have like negative show notes. They just like fuck it, we ball. So,
I was just gonna say, yeah, though that's including the fuck it, we balls, and we'll do it live.
Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it live. Yeah, like all the things that when I've just had it, that's where we're at. I don't know. I feel like that there's a lot to say and there's not enough to say at the same time. It's doing this for 100 weeks. Definitely puts a lot of things into perspective. Part of it is the valuation of time. It's the fact that we've gone 100 weeks straight is a pure act of stubbornness, because there are so many times that I just should have said, you know what, we'll just skip this week. And instead it was hauling equipment to God knows where to make sure that we didn't miss. Or, okay, Charmer's sick. Fuck it. Send out a message. At least somebody's going to say yes. Or Jordan and Abby are at Disney World. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple people that I know will have fun. It's been an adventure making this work. And the old heads that have been around since the start, some of them we don't see anymore. The sleeper jackals of the world, my He's, you know, like, although if Earthbrood ever shows up, he's back. But, you know, we have if I go back to episode 1 of like these show notes that are 143 pages long, or I was to say episode 2, I think was the first time that we had listener questions. That's episode 1. Nope, did not have oh yeah, we did have one. Blitz Monkey. There's one. Blitz Monkey, Nick. And Griddle Master, who's still around. Were the first 2 listener questions back in episode 2 on December 14th of 2021. Like 2021.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and there are some things that, you know, I like to point out that are still true. You know, like we are the concept of Team Sealed in Flesh and Blood came from us. I brought it up in episode 1, and there was a lot of things that just sort of happened whenever we said something, and so I was like, wow, because we would say LSS if you're listening, and then all of a sudden we would have a thing and be like, are they actually fucking listening? Which, you know, if they are, great. And we've had some really great guests over time, some not great. I mean, it is what it is, but it's hard to make shows like that work, right? And we're not a guest show. We're a fuck around show, which is why Flake always comes on whenever he's asked, because he gets to do whatever he wants and we don't stop him. But in all of this, if I didn't have the Fappers, there's no way I would keep doing this. They've been the single driving force, the thing that has made me get my ass in this chair every week, or a chair, I should say, every week for 100 weeks. And I can't, there are not words for me to express how much I appreciate it. It's, I've thought about quitting any number of times. It's crossed my mind. Probably the one that was, you know, the hardest one was when Jordan Abbey left. That was I literally told myself I have one option, and if that person says no, I'm done. And thankfully, or to my absolute dismay, that person said yes, and he's still here to this day. So,
hey, listen, it's after midnight where I'm at, so happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. And Derek, you need credit too, because you actually did save this show, whether you know it or not.
I didn't save this show. All I did was give you the strength to do what you were already going to do. You say you were going to quit, but if there's one thing I know about you, it's that you're not a quitter.
That's why I still drink.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, Jordan Abbey left, you might have done like 30 days dry, and then you'd have been back.
I didn't even do that, though.
No, you didn't.
I just went straight back to it. That being said, my goal for consecutives is 105. 105 will be, I believe, the episode that encompasses the Realm event, if I'm correct. And that'll give us 2 years and a week.
You might need, I'm telling you this now ahead of time, you might need to find a sub when I'm in Barcelona.
Yeah, that's fine. There's plenty of people I know that aren't going to be in Barcelona, and we'll go ahead and send that bat signal out when necessary, but that's totally understandable.
Yeah, mostly just because I'm trying to travel light, because I hate checking luggage for international flights if I can help it. And so I'm at least right now not currently planning on taking a laptop. For you, I would wake up with the time zone difference and I would record, but I don't plan on having the equipment to do so.
That's too much. I mean, I'll fly solo if I have to, but I shouldn't have to. There's plenty of people I can bring in. But yeah, so I will probably be taking probably a break through, my guess is through the holidays, and be back on the weekend after New Year's. But yes, that's still 5 weeks away. So things may change. We may I sat there yesterday and I was thinking about this show and I was thinking about the break and I was thinking about taking one. And then I said, but God, how fucking baller would it be to go 156 straight? And then I realized that was the most unhealthy thought I'd had in a long while. And I have some really unhealthy thoughts sometimes. So let's just not. The current plan is we're going to take the holidays off, much like LSS, and come back with what I will just call season 3 of the show, and hopefully you'll be there when we get back. You never know; it might be that 3 weeks I'm talking about. It might be a week. It might not be a break. It's hard to say, but
I might succumb to seasonal depression.
Please don't. Just don't. But yeah, the biggest takeaway from this is I appreciate each and every one of you listening, and I plan on doing 100 more at least. I'm going to do this until nobody cares, and at that point I'll stop. But turns out there are some fucking people that care. Let's thank some of them. They're called our patrons. So let's start with our associate producers. We've got Alex, Andy, Chris. My wife is making blowjob motions next to where I'm recording.
Did you tell her Lance Goodthrust isn't coming up yet? She has to wait for that?
She has to wait for it. So she can stay right here. You need to stay right there, because you're going to get one that's going to make the sound about right. So we've got Alex, Andy, C-Dubs, Sindra, Kenny, and the Salty Sea Cat. Our executive producers on up are Blaze Storm, a valued member of the Patreon. Dom.
I've never said anything negative about them. Jacob,
Josh.
All right, here it is.
Here it comes. Let's loosen up, baby. Let's good thrust. There it is. She's actually tickling the balls on the motion now. She gets it. Matt Tutokes, Paxanas, Papa Mike. Thank you, Papa Mike, for the cocktail suggestions. Philip, Rich, Taylor, and Trevor. If you're interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. The link is in the show notes. If you need to contact us, Discord, that link's in the show notes. Fleshandpod@gmail.com. At Fleshpod on Twitter. Those are all good places. The Discord's probably still the best. Charmer, where can they find your dumbass?
Probably at their door, trick-or-treating, because by the time this goes live, they should all be celebrating. Assuming you celebrate Halloween or All Hallows Eve or Samhain.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go watch Five Nights at Freddy's. That's what I'm going to do.
If you do celebrate, make sure to check your candy. I have heard some horror stories that this year your children might find an episode of Flesh and Pod in them. But otherwise, you can find me
on Green Bay tickets.
Most social media at either Charmer or That's Charmer, and in our Discord. Those are the most important places to find me.
Yeah, if you're looking for my personal Twitter, it's at Logan Peterson. Basically, I'm Logan Peterson on all social media. Somehow, some way, that still gets fucked up on occasion. So I'm going to give it to you one more time because I haven't done this since episode, 30. But that is Petersen. There are no fucking O's in my last name. There's only the one in my first name. So please, if you're looking for me, that's the way to find me. That got fucked up on the ship manifest for the Realm cruise. And so I'm dealing with that.
Yeah, it's just, that's really depressing for your wife that it's just the 1 O.
You're such a piece of shit. I love you so much, but you're such a piece of shit. You motherfucker.
I love you.
It's only 1 O, but it's also only 1 L, baby. Which means I'm better than Day One Dagon White.
Listen, don't slander my king, okay? Slagan is what I'm going to start calling him because he slays.
Okay, well, I hope he carries that over because that is my teammate for the Realm event, Team Sealed. It's one of the two. So the other one being Matthew Tickle, who listens to the show. And what's going on, buddy? How you been? But the That'll be a fun one because that's 2 ringers and me. So I feel good about our chances. So hopefully we'll take that one down finally. I can get rid of these stupid. So, okay. Keith, I got a bone to pick. Because when we got that second place finish in the team sealed, you gave us sleeves that say second place. And like Dagon's broke immediately. Mine have survived like 50 drafts and multiple sealeds, and they will not die. They are always there to remind me that we couldn't fucking close. And I think that you put some kind of goddamn witchcraft shit spell on them to make sure that I had to stare at them every fucking day that I decided to play a limited event. And I don't have the heart to change them out because they're good sleeves. They've lasted this long. So the frugality of me, which is minimal at best, is, repulsed by the fact that I should throw these out. But at the same time, man, why'd you have to give me the set that doesn't break? Like, did you have to do that? Did you have to put the spell on that box? You couldn't have put it on Dagon's box to always remind him that he's second best. Instead, it's me. I mean, Jordan quit playing, so he doesn't care. He doesn't matter. He didn't give a shit. But, okay. That's 100. I also think it's like 2.5 hours long. So, Derek, you got anything?
I mean, I have plenty of things, but the most important one is, my love for you.
Man,
I love you, buddy.
I
love all the listeners, but I'll be honest. The reason that I do this show every week is because of you.
Yeah, I think you're lying, but I appreciate the sentiment. Because I always have to think you're lying because every fucking time I don't, you pull one over on me. Look at that fucking Smucker's face. Look at that bullshit. It's right fucking there. It's all over his face. He can't hide it. And he's just like grinning like a fucking maniac.
This would be a perfect time to do the Charlie Day wild card, baby. And then just jump out of a moving vehicle.
So let's do that. Let's jump out of this moving vehicle and say that we'll talk to y'all next week. Thanks a lot, everybody. And cheers. Bye.